My name's Evan Spence, this is Chasing Cars, and today we are looking at the 2024 Jeep Wrangler Overland in its natural environment. Now personally, when I think Jeep Wrangler, I think Rubicon. Front and rear diff locks, sway bar disconnect, 411 transfer case ratio reductions, things like that. It's a proper off-roader. But this Overland is trail rated, so it should have some serious off-road chops as well, right? Something a little bit different as well. This has the 2-litre petrol turbocharged motor, not the regular 3.6-litre Pentastar that we're familiar with. I really wanted to see if this smaller capacity motor can keep up off-road. Well, today we're at my local test track and we're going to see just how well this Overland performs. Do you need a Rubicon to hit the bush? Let's go and find out. Today we're not here to test cup holders. We don't care about safety tech. We want to get this very red Jeep very, very muddy.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
Before we get stuck into the tracks, let's just take a quick look around the Wrangler to see what makes it unique. We're starting with external bonnet latches here. That's how you open the bonnet. It's pretty traditional, as well as a 7-slot grille. There's massive bumper bar at the front, which you'd probably just rip off and put a bull bar on. But interestingly, and more importantly, this badge here, it says it's trail rated. That means this is a proper 4-wheel drive, and that's what we're here to test today. Something else I want to talk about is this roof. It's a one-touch folding soft top. We'll get into it a bit later. It's a pretty cool feature, but my word, you pay for that premium. If we move down to the side of the Wrangler, there's a couple of off-road features here I like. You do have a rain gutter here, so perfect for mounting a roof rack, even though you've got this one-touch soft folding roof. Also got some really sturdy steel rock sliders. Great to see because no one likes crunching sills. Something I'm not that stoked with is the amount of space in the back. And if I open this up, I'll show you what I mean. Excuse the mess, but these are just generic plastic tubs you get from a hardware store. And because of this bump here, they just don't fit properly. You have to pretty much fold the seats down to get something this sized in. Now for 4-wheel driving and camping, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? It also means you're going to be limited on fridge space, things like that. So it's obviously not a big car, but if you're going to be touring, it's something to be aware of. With all that stuff out of the way, all that's left to do is to drive this vehicle and see if the 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder has enough grunt to take this thing off-road. Let's get into it. All right, we're getting started in the off-road section. First thing, we've got to put it into 4-wheel drive, which is just an old school lever. Love to see. Something else I love to see is you can use 4-wheel drive high range on the road, similar to the Mitsubishi Super Select 2 system. In the Blue Mountains, that's pretty handy because this Wrangler doesn't like to get power down to the ground. So let's pop it into 4-wheel drive because as mentioned, yeah, this thing spins wheels pretty easily. And we're straight into some mud. Now I want to talk about the ride quality. Wow, it's very wet. We're gonna have some fun today. The ride quality is really good. It's very much improved. I was at the JL Wrangler launch in 2019 in Tasmania. It just felt like the car didn't have the caster settings dialed in. It was really darty. Maybe that was the mud tyres it was on, but this is much, much better, much easier to live with on a day-to-day basis. And I've been doing 150 Ks a day commute. But you don't care about that. You want to see how it goes on rocks, don't you? Got a really good turning circle. Brakes are a little bit spongy, but that's okay. I would be worried about putting much bigger tyres on. I'd be wanting to look at the brakes. Now something, we're going through some really tight trees at the moment, and something I love is that I can see the wheel arches. I know exactly where my wheels are, and we can skip between these trees with ease. All right, that's a good test. So again, this is my local track. In my own FJ Cruiser, would scrape there for sure. So the Wrangler's pretty decent clearance off-road so far. I did notice at the front the steering damper sits in a very strange spot, very, very vulnerable, so I'd be relocating that, which I'm sure there'd be thousands of kits to do that. This vehicle is so easily modified, it's probably the most modifiable 4-wheel drive in the world. All right, now we're going to some really deep mud here. Let's see, it's really firm base, but whoa, she's slippery. These tyres, that's pretty deep. Yeah, these tyres are the absolute limiting factor when it comes to 4-wheel driving in the Overland. Something the Rubicon doesn't have a problem with, because it comes with usually be of Goodrich mud terrains, I think 32-inch tyres, so a very usable size, and they excel in these sloppy conditions. We've had so much rain overnight, it really makes this a bit of a challenge. So it rides good, steers good, brakes are okay. Let's see how it goes on some rocks. I love this little track. We're driving through a muddy pit, but this is really off-cambered rock section, and it tends to catch out most modern four-wheel drives. They tend to bump the front end. Oh man, this thing's too easy. I'm not even in low range. I probably should be in low range four-wheel drive, but again, there's no lockers, so you don't need to press any buttons. It's point and shoot. There's no sway bar disconnect. We've got hill descent control, that's about it. The rest of these features are for on-road, so this is a point and shoot off-roader. Now we're coming up to a wheel lift section here, and this is going to test the articulation and the traction control system. I'm going to put this into low range. Nice satisfying clunk, and it engaged quickly, which I love to see. I'm just going to crawl through this section. You can feel the roof starting to creak under articulation. Honestly, that's front wheel up. That is so impressive. That traction control just worked so well. Again, in my own FJ Cruiser, it wouldn't do it without pushing the locker or the A-Trax button. So what they say about the Wrangler being a capable off-road, it's a really capable off-roader. Very impressed so far with this Overland. And if you wanted that more luxurious premium package that you could still take off-road, it ticks boxes for you. And speaking of the interior, it is more premium. You've got a much bigger touch screen, leather seats, they're heated, leather everywhere, but it's also just kind of not screwed together that well. Room for improvement there, but at least it'll be easy to clean. I just don't know how long it's going to last. Another thing, while we're on the topic of money, is this one-touch folding soft top. How much do you think that function costs? So instead of having the traditional Freedom panels that you just unclip and chuck in the back, how much do you think this folding soft top costs? $6,450. I'm not here to tell you what's expensive or cheap, but to me, that's a really expensive option. It's very good though. When you're using it, it operates very quickly. You can open and close the roof at speeds of up to, I believe, 100 kilometers an hour, maybe a little bit less. It's not noisy, doesn't let wind in, things like that. So it is a cool function, but is it $6,500 cool? Let us know in the comments below. Now the Rubicon comes with a really cool party trick, a 4.11 ratio reduction in the transfer case, which is a very low reduction. That means you can crawl along at an absolute snail's pace. Very, very helpful when off-roading. This doesn't, but is it okay? Well, that's what we want to find out. And so far, I think for general off-roading, if you're staying with stock size tyres, so you're not affecting gearing ratios, it's good enough. It's got enough grunt. This 2-litre motor, which is something we haven't really spoken about, it is wicked. It is such a good performer. Now, from what I've understood, it's a Fiat motor. It's an Italian designed motor. People overseas in America, there's a bit of controversy. Maybe they don't like the smaller capacity compared to the 3.6 we used to get. I reckon this motor performs better. I think it's really good. It's quick, it's peaky, it's torquey. There's no lag. You put your foot down and you move. I've had no reason to not recommend this so far. Look, I can't talk from a reliability point of view, but from a performance point of view, I'd be ticking the 2-litre, which I think is the only motor you can get now anyway. But it's a ripper. I really like it. Fuel economy in stock form, I've seen it down as low as 10 litres per 100. Right now off-road, it's saying we're using about 11.7, and that's not far off the mark. Again, if you look at my FJ Cruiser as a measuring stick, when that was stocked, that used 12 litres as well. So it's on the money. It's a big brick-shaped vehicle with a small capacity motor. What more can you expect? Performance-wise though, it's a little gem. We're shifting back into 2-wheel drive because it might not be as fun as 4-wheel driving, but road handling's still so important when it comes to these vehicles, and especially when you're paying such a premium for this model. A couple of little impressions so far is just build quality related. Like, this indicator is so floppy. as mentioned before, some of this dash material is just a bit poorly screwed together. So that does sort of downgrade your on-road experience because it's not a premium offering. But I think it'll be very practical in the long term, easy to clean and stuff like that. I just do worry about the longevity of these plastics and rubbers in this harsh Australian sun. Now, in terms of on-road driving, the Jeep's pretty dialed in these days. The suspension rides really well, it's well damped. The springs feel like a suitable rate, it doesn't buck you around, it's not too much head tossing. There's not too much body roll. It's probably as good as you're gonna get when it comes to a solid axle Jeep on-road. You do notice that solid front axle though, especially on bumps. There's one bump I hit coming up Lapston Hill in particular, and you can feel some of that lateral shift, some lateral movement in the front end. It's not really a deal breaker, but it is not as pleasant on road as an IFS vehicle. But then you have the benefits of a solid axle when it comes to off-roading in terms of you can customize it, you get a lot of suspension travel, it's a very strong unit. Now, fuel consumption we've touched on before, but we're hovering around the 10 to 11 litres per 100, which is acceptable for a cow-shaped brick. I do really like this one-touch roof. Oh, we've spotted a BYD shark in the wild. It's Jez.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
We spotted a shark in the wild. That's Editor Jez. He's in a BYD shark. So anyway, I do really like this one-touch soft top. I love open-top vehicles. I think they're so much fun. And this is a really good system because it's not too windy. You don't have to store your freedom panels, which you do with the standard model. They're a bit of a pain to put. But again, it comes at such a premium, $6,500. It's a lot of money, but if you want the open top experience, there's not many other four-wheel drives on the market like it. Now, it's certainly a fun daily driver. It's a bit sort of cartoony. You've got this big roll cage and all that sort of stuff. So if you don't like boring cars, the Wrangler is a daily driver. Give it a go. We've had a great day exploring with the Jeep Wrangler in overland trim through the Blue Mountains. But the question we came to answer was, is it Rubicon good? I've got to say yes and no. It's definitely more luxurious inside. It's a more premium product, but it doesn't quite have the chops off-road compared to the Rubicon. And nor would you expect it to without front and rear diff locks, disconnecting sway bars, things like that. But it's still very, very good. It's still a Jeep Wrangler, and you can absolutely take this off-road in comfort too. But you really have to want this vehicle. At over $98,000, I have to say, Jeep's lost the plot when it comes to pricing in Australia. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. We'll see you on the next adventure.